Welcome back with a smiling face. Links to previous episodes are given in the video description, so don't forget to like, subscribe and share the video. The Sorrow of Omega's Broken Heart. Episode 10. Chapter 124. Elisa remained silent. When her father did not get her reply, he asked, "Are you crying for that man?" She opened her eyes and wiped away the tears that had been falling. She turned her head to the window and replied, "No. I am crying because of the foolishness that I did 2 years ago." "Elisa, you did not do anything foolish. You chose the right thing. If he really cared for you, he could have told you about himself. But he did not do that. He let you in the dark." "Dad, don't push someone to her limit. I have already reached the point of no return." She looked at his seat and interrupted him. "My future was the only thing you were worried about, right? He turned out to be the most powerful alpha. When he left this pack, he already held the position of head alpha of his pack. Now what, Dad? You have just been concerned about maintaining your status. What are your thoughts on this matter at this point?" He turned his head from the front seat and looked at her. "So what if he turned out to be a powerful alpha? He is not a good person. Have you not witnessed the way that he behaved around his own father?" "Really? Then hadn't you witnessed how his own family reacted to him 2 years ago? Why are you defending him? You are Logan's Luna, not his. By the way, he has another woman in his life now. So you better not think about him. Dad, I beg you, don't talk to me. I find it hard to accept that you are now being impolite to your father. It's all because of him." Elisa looked over at her mother, who had been completely mute during the car ride. When Joey realized that her daughter was looking at her, she immediately spoke up and said, "Glenn, relax. Let's put an end to this topic here." During the meal, she declared that the only person she loves is Logan. This brings an end to the conversation. The peacemaking efforts of Elisa's mother toward her father were successful. Glenn did not say anything after then. He only glanced at the rearview mirror from time to time. When they reached home, Elisa did not waste any time getting to her room. She went straight there. She closed the door and slid against it. She touched her neck and cried silently. She grabbed her hair and pulled it in anger. She was depressed. Those burning gazes of Lucas's continued to torment her. Every time she closed her eyes, she was only seeing his eyes. Those eyes were filled with a deep-rooted animosity toward her. She recalled Logan's words when she was in the garden. Lucas had someone else in his life now. Though she thought she had moved on in her life, after watching him once again, she felt she had been lying to herself all these years. She was unable to put him out of her heart. Her wolf could not forget his warmth. She had no idea how she was going to deal with everything now. She did not know how long she would control herself. She cursed herself for saying those things to him 2 years ago. She cursed herself for listening to her parents and letting him go. She cursed herself for trying to forget him. She pressed her head against the door and brushed her hand on her neck. He almost killed her today. Did he hate her that much? Would he ever forgive her? Or he would punish her just like he said that she would have to pay. The next morning, Elisa went to school. Students were passing her. A few of them bowed to her since, in 1 month, she was going to be the Luna of this pack. "Why do you look upset?" Diva asked. Elisa was sitting on a bench beside the window. She was lost, so her new friends were worried for her. "Nothing," she mumbled. "You can tell us. You are a strong woman. How come you look weak today? Are you sick?" Should we inform Alpha? Sierra inquired with a worried tone. Tisk. No, please don't. She replied. She did not like it when they talked to Logan. Last time, Logan arranged a birthday party for her and invited all of them. After that point, all of them became Logan fans. Because Logan had previously instructed them to look after her, if there was a problem, they were adamant about informing him about it. Okay. But I think it would be best if we went to the clinic for a quick checkup. Diva said. The day passed without paying attention to the classes. Elisa could not just focus on anything. She noticed Logan's car waiting for her outside school. She could have chosen to take the bus, but given that his car was already parked there, others might have been suspicious of her conduct. Since she did not want anyone to discuss or gossip about her, she did not want to give them an excuse to do so. She reached the pack house. She cast a glance across at the cars that were parked in the parking lot. She remembered that there was a meeting scheduled for today in the pack house. How could I forget it? She rubbed her forehead and got out of the car. What should I do now? I didn't even wear any appropriate dress to go in front of the alphas or attend the meeting. She muttered and entered the pack house. Since it was already noon, everybody was already in the meeting room. She looked for Ella in hopes that she could help her find a dress so that she could go to the meeting and join the others. Ella was having a conversation with the cook in the kitchen. Alisa learned that she was giving the chef instructions to prepare Lucas's favorite dishes. Aunt Ella smiled at her as she turned to face her. Good noon, my dear. Good noon. I came to ask for a dress. Ella looked at her dress and said, Oh, you are late for the meeting. Yeah. Let's go. We can check Logan's wardrobe. Elisa's legs froze. Why? Maids arranged Luna's clothes there. You will move in there in 1 month, but before then, you are required to visit here on a daily basis. Therefore, I instructed them to put everything in its proper place there. You can just go and change your clothes and then proceed right to the meeting. Elisa nodded her head, and she dashed for the stairwell. She was ready to climb the steps but stopped when she noticed that Lucas and his officials were making their way down. Tisa was with them. Elisa moved to the side to make room for their descent. It was clear to her that they were going to attend the meeting. Ella smiled at Lucas and said, It's good that the meeting has not begun yet. Elisa is going to the meeting hall after changing her clothes. Lucas paused walking when he heard that. He turned to Ella and asked, What did you just say? Why would she attend a meeting? She will be our Luna soon. So she started to attend meetings 6 months ago. Ella replied softly. She was feeling relieved that her son was at least talking to her. Lucas gave Elisa a stern look and said, You can't attend the meeting. Elisa was taken aback. Why? It's my meeting. And you haven't yet gotten the position of the Luna of this pack. So I don't want an unprofessional person like you sitting in front of me in the meeting room. Elisa was stunned by his reply. She watched him walk with his officials as they headed to the meeting room. In addition, Tisa did not come to her defense, which made Elisa upset more. When Lucas went to the room where the meeting would take place, the Theta that belonged to Logan was waiting for him outside. Lucas entered the meeting room, and the whole room turned silent. All the alphas in the room looked at him with wide eyes. They knew Alpha Lucas had come to this pack, but they could not believe their eyes. Everyone quickly sprang to their feet and bowed to him as though he were their head alpha. The aura he had was something they could not ever have. They always heard about him and learned who he was. But seeing him in person was unbelievable. Alpha Lucas. One of the alphas called out excitedly and almost came out of his seat, but the alpha beside him nudged his arm to stop him. I just wanted to shake hands with him. That alpha whispered but could not dare, and he lowered his head when Lucas looked at him. At the conference table, there were 2 chairs designated as the head chairs. While Lucas moved to sit in the other, Logan was already occupied in one of the chairs. Their officials sat in close proximity to them. Tisa was the only woman present, and she sat with Beta Max, who was her mate. Logan cast a quick glance towards the door, which was noticed by many around him. "Start the meeting," Max spoke out. Logan shook his head. "No, my Luna is on her way. We can wait for a few minutes for her." He remarked this while reaching for his phone on the table. He called her almost 20 times, but she had been rejecting his calls since the morning. It became her habit to do that. "She is not coming," Lucas said to Logan. Logan looked up from his phone and turned his attention on Lucas, who was sitting directly opposite him at the end. "What?" On behalf of Lucas, Vernon replied, "Only the lady who became Luna is allowed here." "So your soon-to-be Luna is not allowed in a professional meeting like this?" In most cases, Lunas did not show up to any of the meetings that were being held. However, the pack that planned the pack meeting had the ability to invite Luna to attend the meeting because it was her right to participate in the decision-making process. Logan looked at the door for the last time and kept his silence. He wanted Elisa to attend the meeting with him, but because of Lucas's rules, she could not attend the meeting. "But we don't have to follow this rule since the wedding is just 1 month away. Am I right?" Glenn spoke out. Everyone agreed with him. In the next pack meeting, she would be here anyway. Lucas gave Glenn a disapproving look and then turned to Logan, saying, "Alpha, your pack is so unprofessional. Even former officials can also join an important meeting like this." His words indicated this to Glenn. It destroyed Glenn's reputation in the eyes of others around him. The statement made by Lucas knocked him completely off his feet. "Be careful, Alpha Lucas. He is my Luna's father," Logan warned her. All of the alphas felt tension between the 2 alphas. They felt that there was a rivalry going on between Logan and Lucas. However, they believed that no one could win over Lucas. The man who had already grabbed 5 packs under his name, who would even dare to tease him. Each and every one of them had simply come here in the hopes of gaining favor in his eyes and preventing him from attacking their pack. "Oh, so he is the head alpha's father-in-law. I see," Lucas said as if he did not know the facts. Alpha Neil shot him an angry look. "Lucas, it's Alpha Lucas for you. I think I chose the wrong pack for the visit. What do you say, everyone?" After reminding Alpha Neil to address him by his rank, Lucas asked the other people in the room the question. Although everyone nodded their heads, they were careful not to speak because Logan was staring down at them. They were unable to infuriate any of the alphas with their behavior. Additionally, Logan was a powerful alpha. In the span of 1.5 years, he accomplished a great deal for his pack. "Let's get this meeting started." After standing up, Wade stated. Every alpha took turns introducing themselves, one by one. Lucas's piercing eyes were judging them with his abyssal gaze. They felt nervous under his gaze. They felt like submitting to him at any time, but they were here to stand out from their pack, not giving up in front of him. So they controlled themselves and passed the meeting well. "We are getting the invitation for Alpha Logan's wedding next month. Will we get to see Alpha Lucas there?" one of the alphas asked. Everyone turned their attention to Lucas to figure out the answer. "I don't think he will invite me," Lucas said. He placed his elbows on the table and looked at Logan with amazed eyes. Logan shook his head. Why won't I invite you? I will invite each and every one of you. Let's see. Logan chose to disregard his provocative statements and instead inquired, what about your wedding? You haven't decided on a time yet, have you? Everyone was aware that he had fixed a woman up to be his Luna, but nobody had any idea who she was. Since he had never attended any meetings or visited other packs, they could not get to see his Luna either. Lucas noticed everyone's excitement in their eyes, which caused him to raise one eyebrow. I will invite everyone and show you how the Black Moon Pack shows hospitality to others. But until then, wait for it. He replied and stood up. Then he looked at everyone with his predatory eyes for the last time before saying, the meeting is over. Elisa was wandering around the garden. When she was insulted by Lucas, she was at such a breaking point that she could not control her tears. She isolated herself by going to the garden and crying there. These 2 years were a challenge for her to survive. She did well and tried to move on. She developed herself into a strong lady. However, the moment he stepped on this pack, she lost it. She lost herself. She observed the flowers and noticed that some of them were unable to bloom in the same manner as the others. It seemed to her that she was nothing more than those flowers, who was far away from getting happiness. Because of how badly her life had been thrown off track, it was impossible to get it back on track. I am observing you for a few minutes. You seem to be staring at the flowers for what seems like eternity. Elisa was startled when she suddenly heard a woman's voice and spun around to look. She looked over and saw Elora standing there with a broad smile. There was a delight in her green eyes, they reminded her of someone. She gave it a thought for a second, but she was unable to recall where she had seen those eyes before. Hello, Elora. She greeted her. Elora's eyes inspected her from head to toe, and then they returned to her eyes. She signaled her head to the flowers and asked, what were you looking at? Nothing. I was feeling the fresh air of the garden's beautiful environment. Elisa replied casually. As Elora approached her, the solace of her black boots made a clicking sound on the ground. She was dressed all in black, from her jeans to her top. On top of that, there was a black jacket. All of them fit her body perfectly. Elisa did not have any bad intentions toward Elora. She was not even familiar with her. Therefore, it was impossible for her to have any animosity toward anyone only on the basis of the fact that her closest friend and her ex-boyfriend were both involved with this woman now. Elisa smiled lightly as she gazed at Elora's hot dressing sense. You may like black a lot. Elisa said to her. She remembered that she was in a black dress yesterday when she came here. Elora shook her head and replied, no, it's Lucas's favorite color. The smile on Elisa's face froze. The smile wiped off, and she looked away from her. I admire his every side. In my eyes, he is a flawless person who has many shades. I want to adapt his soul inside me. Hearing Elora, Elisa turned her head to her. Elora's eyes were fixed on the flowers that she was looking at before. Elisa was unable to deny the fact that it hurt her feelings to hear someone else speak in such a way about the person who she loved. But the way Elora was looking at those flowers, she could not say that she looked pleased. Do you know why roses have thorns? Elora asked her. She glanced at the roses and asked, why? Thorns are there to protect the flowers so that no one can harm it. But people do what they desire. They cut off the thorns first and lastly rip the roses from the tree. Because without thorns, they are vulnerable and easy to catch. Elisa was blown away by her point of view. She was certain that Elora was an extraordinary woman without a shadow of a doubt. Elora turned her head toward her and said, just like delicate flowers, they always like weak people. Elisa's brows shot up. Did she just talk about her? Was she calling her weak? She gazed into Elora's eyes for a moment. She perceived hostility directed in her direction. Elora broke into a bright smile to conceal it and inquired, "How are you feeling right now? The following month, you are going to take up the role of Luna for this pack." Alisa understood that Lucas had told Elora about her. That was the reason why she held contempt for her. It was possible that she viewed her as a rapacious woman. Alisa did not pull Lucas's topic and behaved as if she did not understand her taunt. "I am happy," she replied simply. Her response was straightforward. Her appearance was unruffled and expressionless. She did not convey any sort of feeling through her eyes. She wondered if she could do the same in front of Lucas, too. "How is the preparation?" "Good," Alisa replied and thought for a moment. She wanted to ask something and did not hesitate since Elora was the one who approached her. "What about your wedding plans?" Elora was silent for some time. Alisa wanted to show her some respect, as she was really maintaining her duties well. Alisa could not read her face. She could not get her thoughts out until she spoke out. "We are planning. You will get the invitation soon." Alisa gave her a nod. "Nice. I hope you two can live a happy life." Her voice cracked ever so little when she was saying that, but she managed to keep it together and even wished for it. She had a kind heart and did not want any ill will upon anyone. After having a conversation with Elora, she gained the impression that she was not a threatening woman. She believed that Lucas had chosen the right person to spend the rest of his life with. Elora cared deeply for him, and she would do anything to put a smile on his face. Though she was feeling pain in her chest, she did not let out a single sound. "I need to go to Lennis. I need a checkup. Why am I continually feeling chest pain? Do I have any heart problems?" Alisa thought. The two women looked at the beauty of the garden. One of them looked simple and weak. Another one looked bold and strong. Both of their characters and personalities were different. But fate somehow twisted their lives together. "Elora, what are you doing here? I was calling you. Where is your phone?" Alisa could make out Tisa's voice coming from behind her. She wanted to turn to her. But she did not turn. Elora turned around and replied, "I forgot my phone in my room." "How was the meeting?" Tisa did not reply immediately as her eyes fell on Alisa. She moved her eyes to Elora and replied, "Good. I came to take you. We are going to visit a few places today. Come on. Lucas is waiting for you." Elora looked at Alisa. "What about you? Are you coming?" "No. I have some stuff to do. You all can go and have fun." Alisa replied. Elora nodded and left the garden with Tisa. Alisa smiled bitterly when they left. Tears rolled down her cheeks. "Now we came to this edge, Tisa. You don't even want to talk to me. You are ignoring me as if I was never your friend." She wiped her tears and cursed herself. She felt stupid for feeling for the people who did not give a damn to her. Last night, she wanted to talk to Tisa, but because of the room exchange, she could not talk to her. But at this point, she had made up her mind to avoid conversation with her. She wanted to let her behave as she wanted. "I don't care. I should not care for anyone. Why am I crying? I am not like this. This is not me." She was mumbling to herself while taking several deep breaths. She heard footsteps moving toward her. She turned around and saw Logan coming to her. "I am curious as to why you decided not to join us at the meeting today," he inquired of her. She quickly averted her sight from him before responding, Alpha Lucas forbade me to attend his meetings until I will become the Luna of this pack. He moved closer to her and stroked her hair. She looked at him. Should we move forward the date of our wedding then? She rolled her eyes and lightly pushed his hand away from her head. No way. He chuckled and joked, you are waiting for the last moment, right? You are just waiting, if somehow I die at the last moment, you will be free from me. She knew he was kidding, but she wanted him to take it seriously. No, I never wanted you to die. Honey, I know you still love me. Regardless of how much you try to deny it. He gave her a knowing wink. She nodded her head. Yeah. Keep dreaming. I don't want you to die because then who will live in remorse? Seeing you guilty gives me inner peace. I can't let you die by leaving me in hell. After staring at her eyes for a few seconds, he eventually nodded his head. Then let's live under the same roof and despise one another. What can we say about it? Because if I die, you will go to hell to get revenge on me. Logan's expression made her chuckle. Sometimes, Logan tried to make her smile, and a few times, he even succeeded, just like right now. Elisa chuckled and shook her head. You have a great sense of humor. You can still make me laugh despite the fact that you have made my life a living hell. Elisa muttered. Suddenly, her eyes fell behind Logan. Her smile faded away when she saw Elora. Her face looked gloomy. Elora. Elora looked away from them and responded, Aunt Ella asked both of you to come with us to show us around. I came just to tell you that Lucas is waiting outside. Come fast. After saying that, Elora left the garden. Alisa was bewildered by her behavior. She could not help but think, anyone could have come to inform us. Why did Elora come by herself? She was fine a few minutes ago. Then why does she look mad now? What happened to her? Logan shook her arm when he saw Elisa lost somewhere. He asked, what happened? Don't you think she looks angry? Elisa asked as she stared at the gate of the garden. Logan rolled his eyes and replied, stay away from that woman. She can be harmful to you. Why? Elisa asked and turned her gaze at him. She is not like us. She is different. She is a witch and a werewolf. We can't ignore her witch blood. So what? We are friends with witches. I don't know. I don't like her. I can't like her. He said with a frown. At first, you rejected me for being an Omega. Now you start to despise people for their natural identity. That's enough. You can't bring up rejection in every single one of our conversations. You told me that you had forgiven me 2 years ago. However, after some time had passed, you once more began to criticize me for that. Elisa, that is not cool at all. She was reminded of the promise she had made to him after he had saved her life in the accident to forgive him from the bottom of her heart. She actually did until he showed his true colors. Elisa walked past him and walked out of the garden. Logan followed her behind as he wanted to hear her explanation. When Elisa looked up and saw her father seated on the couch, she immediately came to a stop. Her mother patted his back while saying something. Her father looked angry. He did not look in a good mood. What happened to him? She asked. Logan chose to maintain his silence since he did not want to bring up the topic of what had occurred earlier today in the meeting room. Let's go. We have to go outside. Logan remarked before taking her hand in his. No, wait. After saying that, she headed in the direction of her father. Dad, what happened? She asked as she looked at him carefully. Her father looked up from the couch and glared at her. "Do you really want to know what happened?" he said with a furious tone. Joey glanced at the area to see if anyone was there. Then she said, "Not here, Glenn. And she does not have anything to do with it." Elisa glanced at her mother. "When did you come here, Mom? Why does Dad look mad? Did something happen?" Elisa was startled when Glenn suddenly stood up, and she took a step backward. Her body bumped into Logan, who was standing behind him. He wrapped his hand around her shoulders and looked at her father. "She was not present in the meeting. I want you not to discuss anything with her. I hope you will obey me as your alpha." Elisa was perplexed. "What are you all talking about? I want to know." Logan shook his head. "You don't need to know." Glenn stared at Elisa and said, "Look at this man. He is our head alpha. When he was only the son of our alpha, he never tried to ill-treat me in any way. Just like his father, he always treated me and your mother, including you, as his own family. This is the person I chose for you. The best man ever." Children can think that their parents are selfish. But they only think well of their children. The unexpected outburst from Elisa's father took her by surprise. She slowly turned to Logan and asked, "What did he do this time?" Logan was aware that she had questioned him about Lucas. Logan let out a sigh before dragging her along with him. "I told you. You don't need to know. He is here for a week. He will go back soon, and our lives will be normal again. So leave it." Elisa glanced at her father and felt that something really big had happened. At that time, Ella entered the living room. She looked at the atmosphere and kept quiet. "You said we have to go with them," Elisa said to Ella. "Yeah, as Luna, you should go with Elora. But I want Logan to go with you. You two almost never went anywhere by yourselves. Therefore, I wish to relieve you of your responsibilities for a couple of hours." Elisa was unable to deny it. Going with another Pax Luna was also her duty. She was the host of this pack for the guests. "Okay, I am going to change clothes," she said and went upstairs to Logan's room. When she opened the closet door, she discovered a plethora of garments neatly organized within. She decided to wear a dress that was bottle green and reached her knees. She went to the bathroom and changed her clothes hurriedly. To her surprise, many cosmetics were also there in a drawer of the closet. She put on light makeup. She wore white heels, which went really well with her dress, and left the room after pulling her hair back into a high ponytail. She proceeded to stroll over to the stairway and descend it. She overheard Alpha Neil yelling at someone. He was bellowing loudly. She was dumbfounded as to the reason behind his unexpected outburst of rage. She then made her way over to the couches where Alpha Neil and Ella were having their conversation. "How dare he humiliate my best friend in front of another pack's head alphas? Those alphas were lads in front of us when we ran the pack. We used to deal with their fathers. Their fathers always lowered their heads whenever they talked to me or my beta. But today, he insulted my beta. So what if he retired? I am also retired. If I can join the meeting of the pack, which I built for a long time, then why can't my beta? How dare he accuse him in front of those people of being unprofessional?" Elisa clenched her fists while listening to Alpha Neil. Her father's head was low. Her mother looked upset. It might hurt her too. Ella was silent because Alpha Neil was talking to her. Logan was nowhere to be found. Elisa closed her eyes to control her anger. Lucas talked rubbish about her father in front of her in the forest 2 years ago. That time, she couldn't take it and slapped him. She thought he was talking insanely out of anger. But she forgot how he was. People say the truth that you turn blind in love. Though her father did not like Lucas, he never said anything bad about him directly. Then why did Lucas disrespect him in front of others? Elisa did not interrupt the conversation and turned to the entrance. She walked to the door. 2 years ago, I did something wrong to you to break your heart. But you moved on in your life. Then why are you doing this? I can tolerate anything but my parents' insults. I even sacrificed my own happiness to keep them in my life. I died inside daily just thinking that they were wrong not to support you but Logan. Let's go. She turned her head and saw Logan. He held her hand and walked out of the pack house. Elisa's eyes gazed at Logan, then moved to the man who was sitting in the black car. His predatory eyes shifted on hers. Don't prove me wrong. Let me live with regret. Don't do anything to make me hate you, Lucas. Lucas turned his head away from Elisa. He looked at the driver and commanded, "Start the car." "Yes, Alpha." His driver started the car right away and drove off in the direction they intended to go. Elora was sitting beside Lucas in the back seat. She stared at Lucas. She tried to observe his face. Indifferent. Sometimes I wonder how you were with her during those months that now she is so shocked by looking at your indifferent attitude. She asked as her eyes caressed his handsome face. He was unbothered. He took out his phone and typed something, then put it back into the pocket of his blazer jacket. Lucas, she called his name. She slowly lifted her hand and placed it on his heart. Is it still beating for her? She moved her head closer and was about to rest it on his chest when he stopped her by grabbing her wrist. She swallowed hard and looked into his cold eyes. His dark eyes were glaring at her. She smiled at him as if he were the only thing she wanted to see. "Oh, I forgot, you don't have a heart, Alpha," she said and chuckled. Her smile was seductive. It could mesmerize any man in the world, but this man in front of her was exceptional. For a very long time, she had her sights set solely on him. From the day her eyes fell on him, she turned blind in his love. Her mother was the highest ranked witch among the most powerful covens. She warned her so many times to stay away from this dangerous man, but she was so in love that she ignored her own mother. She met him when he came to stay in the place she used to live. His father sent him to study there at a well-known university. She used to see him every day. Her eyes were always on him, but he never cared about girls. He was the troublemaker at their school. From students to the teachers, each and everyone used to avoid him. They avoided him because they kept their distance from him to ignore troubles. He never disclosed his true identity as a member of an alpha family. He used to tell others that his father abandoned him because he was worthless to his family. So he wanted to live like one. However, the principal knew about him. So he always did something intentionally so that teachers would take him to the principal's office, and the principal would call his father to tell him about his son's unlawful records. It was something he did on a regular basis until it became a habit, as though he took pleasure in demonstrating to his father how spoiled he had become. All of his life, he was surrounded by girls. Girls were head over heels for him. But he never looked at them with the eyes of love, as if he did not know what love was. At some point, he left the university for a few months, and when he returned, he turned into a more aggressive person. His body was built with more muscles and his aura turned darker. He started to go around with girls. He never made anyone his girlfriend. Although every female was aware that he was not interested in pursuing a romantic connection, they continued to try nevertheless. Unfortunately, none of them were successful in catching his attention. Elora was an ordinary witch at that time. She used to fangirl over him. But she was not the type of shy girl who would stand a distance away and simply observe him in silence. She was bold and daring. She would lie if she said she did not feel scared to approach him. She was frightened when she talked to him for the first time. He ignored her like she was invisible, which resulted in her developing an even deeper attraction to him. She wanted to have him as her man. As the days passed, she started making threats to other women, warning them to keep away from him. The news flew to him and reached his ears. One day, he called her to come to him and inquired as to why she continued to waste her time on him. That day, she confessed to him that she loved him. He told her that there was no place for love in his life because he did not have a heart. From that day on, she made him her obsession. A few days later, her mother summoned her to the coven in order to question her over the incident. She was at first shocked by how she knew about it or how Lucas got to know her mother. Later, she learned about him. He was the most powerful alpha that every kind was trying to get in touch with. From then on, her stubbornness to have him all to herself only grew stronger. She was too adamant to let him go. One time, she fell in danger, and he saved her. Sometimes she felt that he was a very down-to-earth person. He never let his parents know about himself. He never showed off his powers to others. People were afraid of him because of his aura. He was the one to whom everyone bowed down. He was the alpha who did not have any fear of anyone and won 5 wars all by himself without the assistance of any other pack. One day, she learned that someone had caught his eye. The man who used to say that he had no heart felt his heart begin to beat for someone else. At that time, she felt like dying. She almost died. But when he heard about her, he left everything behind and came to save her once again. He gave her a new life. He was the one who turned her into a hybrid, otherwise, who had the power to change anyone's kind. She felt like the happiest person in the world the day he went back to his pack. When he declared her his soon-to-be Luna, she thought her struggle to get him had finally ended. However, fate was never easy on her. Though she turned into his future Luna, she never got into his heart. A betrayer like her will never again have any place in my heart. She heard him muttering. He was gazing out the window. She looked at her nails and mumbled, "Well, that's good for me." Hearing her, he turned his head to her. Her lips parted as she saw his fiery orange eyes. She laughed and shook her head in amusement as she thought of something. "They are so terrified of you simply because they have learned about your pacts and wars. I wonder how they will react when they find out who you are." Elisa made her way to Logan's car while his driver held the door open for her. Logan walked around the car and got inside. Elisa sat in the back seat with Logan, and the driver started the car. She leaned her head against the seat and asked, "Where are we going?" "Art gallery." Elisa made a frowning face and then turned to face him. "Art gallery? That's where they decided to go." "Who decided it?" "Who else? Your so-called best friend. Don't talk about her like this." Logan snorted and then looked out the window. "Have you ever witnessed Wade acting with me in such a manner before? You have a lot of concern for her. However, what exactly is she doing? The way she changed her friendship around because of the power she got, that's unbelievable. Your choice is really bad, Elisa. You never picked the right person to put your faith in. Not everyone is like Logan, who admitted his fault and made up for it by working hard." Elisa stared at his face. When he did not hear any response from her, he turned his head. "Done?" Elisa asked. Logan nodded his head. "Yeah, done." "Good. She then responded before turning her attention to the window. She showed little interest in anything she was being told. She was already upset about what Lucas had done to her father. She did not want to go anywhere, she was not in the mood, but since it was Ella's wish and her duty, she had to go no matter how much she refused it in her heart. She could not ignore Logan's words entirely. What Tisa was behaving with her was really unexpected. Why did she choose the art gallery? She could have chosen somewhere else. The art gallery was very far from the pack house. Elisa wanted to go and come back soon, but Tisa had chosen the wrong destination. It's okay. If you don't feel like going, I will tell Mom not to make you go against your will. Logan said before pulling out his phone. No need for that. I don't want your sulky mood there. If you want to go, then go there in a good mood. Tisk. She placed her hand on the rim of the window and then brought her palm up to cover her face. She closed her eyes. She was not feeling well at all. She did not sleep well at night. She had to go to school early in the morning. Now she would have to go somewhere far, who knew when she would get the chance to go back home and sleep peacefully. Approximately 6 cars were going in the same direction. Everyone, whoever was passing the cars, glanced at them with awe. Logan glanced at Elisa. Her head was tilted to the side. She fell asleep. She ended up falling asleep. He reached out his hand and placed her head on his shoulder. He cupped her cheek and gently stroked it with his thumb. Only a few days left. After that, I will make you mine. I will never let you complain about anything again. The ride was long. The cars stopped in front of a restaurant. The owner of the restaurant was standing outside the restaurant with all of his staff. Wade was the first person to exit the car when they arrived. The owner greeted him with a bow and said, "Beta Wade, it's a pleasure to meet you. It is a privilege that we were able to talk to you. I furnished the whole place when I heard Alpha would come here with his guests." "That's good." Everyone except Logan and Elisa got out of the car and walked to the entrance of the restaurant. "Where is your Alpha?" Vernon asked Wade. Everyone's attention went to Wade. Wade turned around to look at Logan's car and was stunned. Others' attention shifted to the car. Through the window glass, everyone could see Logan and Elisa, and both of their eyes were closed. Elisa had fallen asleep while being held in Logan's arms. His hand was wrapped around her shoulder in a protective manner. Nice. Alpha Logan is really romantic. Look at him. His Luna is so precious to him. He even let his Luna lean on him. Ella said. Her voice was audible to those around her since it was quite loud. Nevertheless, her remarks pointed to a solitary individual. She gave him a friendly smile before asking, "Don't you think the same, Lucas?" She thought he would not respond to anything. However, Lucas muttered, "Indeed." Wade cleared his throat and looked at Lucas. "Alpha, you can enter the restaurant first. Soon, Alpha Logan will be there to accompany you." Lucas gave him the side eye and then gave him a nod. His expression was unruffled and unconcerned. It was impossible for someone who was not familiar with him to suppose that he had been Elisa's ex-boyfriend. Wade glanced at the owner of the restaurant and introduced Lucas. "He is Alpha Lucas, the head alpha of the Black Moon Pack. He is here as an honored guest. Don't give him the opportunity to be dissatisfied with his decision to eat at your restaurant." Black Moon Pack. The owner stumbled over his words. Who did not know about the Black Moon Pack and its alpha? Everyone trembled in their boots before him. He was in disbelief that he would have the opportunity to serve him. "Please come inside," the owner said politely, and all the staff rushed inside to welcome him and others. Everyone entered the establishment while admiring the exquisite decor of the fancy restaurant. Wade strode to Logan's car and knocked on the glass of the window next to Logan. Logan opened her eyes and rolled down the window. "You are awake." Then why didn't you wake her up?" "She is sleeping." "Bro, you need to quit being such a crazy lover and come clean. Try acting like a professional for just a second. I am aware of the reasons for your decision to remain inside the car at that time." Elisa's sleep was rudely awakened by Wade's voice. She opened her eyes and rubbed them with her fingers. "She has woken up. Now come out to join others." "I am going inside," Wade said and headed towards the restaurant. Elisa realized that she was leaning on Logan. She immediately pushed his hand lightly and sat up straight. "I am sorry." She thought she had fallen asleep and leaned on him unknowingly. "What is there to apologize for?" Logan asked and got out of the car. Elisa took out her phone and opened the front camera to see her face and hair. When she saw everything was okay, she reached for the door lock. But before that, Logan opened the door for her. She got out of the car and thanked him for assisting her. They entered the restaurant together. The owner rushed to Logan and bowed to him and Elisa. "I can't believe my good luck that you chose to dine here, Alpha." He smiled and greeted Elisa as he turned to face her. "Good afternoon, Luna." Elisa realized that they had not had their lunch yet. They left the pack house at midday, following the meeting that had just concluded. Consequently, the cars came to a halt in order to enjoy their late lunch. She smiled at the owner and nodded at him. "Please, this way." He pointed them in the direction of a stairway made of wood. Elisa cast her gaze all over the restaurant. But something caught her off guard when she saw the stairs. Her legs froze when she carefully examined the restaurant once again. It was not long before his heart began to race. She was unfamiliar with the restaurant's particular style of decoration. However, she recognized the staircase immediately. "What happened?" Logan asked her. She did not reply to him and glanced at the owner. "Do you, by any chance, change the decoration of your restaurant?" The owner looked shocked. "Yes, Luna." "How do you know?" "We changed the decorations when we heard that Alpha was coming here. We rejected every reservation and tried to furnish everything to give it an appealing look. We wanted to make you all sit at a long dining table that we organized really well," the owner said while pointing his hand to a large table that was decked up with bouquets of flowers and bottles of wine. "But Alpha Lucas asked for the rooftop, and we were fortunate to secure a table there. So everyone is currently lounging around on the roof right now." Elisa tapped the tips of her lips together and looked down at the ground while nodding her head. Logan followed her as she headed up the staircase but did not ask her any questions along the way. When she got up to the rooftop, she felt a pang in her heart. The open sky and forest view made her heart shudder. The owner did not change anything here. Elisa only saw the change on the table. Instead of a single table for 2 people, there was a large table with seating for a number of people. Her eyes met with the person who brought her here once to confess his feelings for her. It was the same restaurant where Lucas proposed to her 2 years ago. Elisa stared at the dark eyes, which were so cold that she felt frozen. She remembered how he got down on one knee in front of her and grasped her hand. He had explained to her that he was unable to offer her a ring, but instead, he gave her a necklace that was really precious to him. Lucas looked away from Elisa. She lowered her head and lifted her hand. She caressed a locket that hid under her dress. "Why did you stop? Are you not feeling well?" As Logan's voice reached her ears, her fingers curled. She gave a slight shake of her head before approaching the table. When Wade looked over, he noticed that Logan and Elisa were getting closer. He was about to rise up. However, Logan motioned for him not to stand up because he was in the middle of eating. Logan pulled a chair for Elisa. Elisa silently sat in the chair. "Sorry, we started first. Don't mind us." Elora spoke out to Elisa. "It's okay. Please eat. I apologize for my inconvenient behavior. I should be with you when you enter." "That doesn't matter. We were able to observe how romantic your alpha is. The way he dozed off while holding you in his arms." Elora paused and turned her gaze to Logan, then continued, "It looked like a habit. It seems that the two of you always do that." Elisa ignored everything happening around her. She started eating with her head lowered down. Logan gave Elora his full attention before casting a glance across to Lucas, who appeared unfazed by whatever it was that Elora had said. "We are couples. Cuddling is something that comes very naturally to couples," Logan said and moved his gaze to Elora once again. Logan's smile faded when his eyes turned dark. Elora averted his gaze and then turned to face Lucas. "What are your thoughts?" Lucas halted, moving the fork. "About what?" he asked. "About cuddling," Elora replied. He furrowed his brows. She locked her arm with him and questioned him again, "What do you think? What is the best place for cuddling? Bed or car, like they were doing?" Elisa raised her head and glanced at Elora's arm. She chewed food, but she lost her appetite. She took a glance at her surroundings and immediately felt worse. If she had known that they were planning on coming to this restaurant, she likely would not have approved of their decision to come here. "In the woods," Lucas replied to Elora. All of a sudden, everyone heard the sound of a fork hitting the plate. They turned their heads in the direction of Elisa. Her finger became unbalanced and her fork ended up falling onto her plate, which resulted in a loud noise. In the meantime, Elisa quickly batted her eyelids. To keep herself under control, she balled up her empty hand. The response from Lucas shook her heart. It took her back to the night of her father's birthday. Under the moonlight and close to the lake, he cuddled with her, and she fell asleep in his arms in the woods. She blinked her eyes rapidly in an effort to stop any tears from escaping them. Why was it that every word he spoke, everything he did, and even he himself served as a constant reminder of her past? She sensed someone putting their arm around her shoulder and rubbing it. What happened? She turned to her side. Logan appeared to be concerned. She gave a slight nod in response. He gazed intently into her eyes. His eyes began to darken as if he could read what was in her eyes. He removed his arm from her and turned his head to Lucas, who was also looking at him. Everyone at the table could feel the tension that was building up. There was nothing to act on. Each and everyone at the table knew the past relationship between Lucas and Elisa. There was nothing to hide. Logan was going to say something to Lucas, but Elora interrupted him and said something instead. "That's why you hugged me that night? I told you I wanted to go back home. How stupid I was. You should have told me that you like it." When Elisa heard Elora, she immediately turned her attention to Lucas. Lucas turned to Elora and said, "Private life should be private. Look who's talking." Logan mocked. "You are right. You cannot share the moment that you spent with your special person." Once more, Elora was the one to interrupt Logan. It really irritated Logan. He could not help but cast an angry look in Elora's direction. There was disdain in her eyes when she gazed back at him. "Everyone, eat fast. We have to get going so we can visit the art gallery." Tisa spoke out. Max nodded his head in agreement. Both Vernon and Owen were keeping their silence as they observed the other people. After having a meal, everyone stood up. Elisa took one final look across the rooftop before following the others down the stairs. They traveled for a total of 1 hour and a half before arriving at the art gallery. This was the first time Elisa came here. She got down of the car and looked at the 2-story building. Crown Art Gallery was written outside the building. She made her way into the gallery. The hallway was quite extensive. Visitors were able to view a large number of paintings that were displayed there. There were numerous visitors there, and they all strolled around while gazing at the many artworks. The guests' attention was truly grabbed by the white wall that featured vivid paintings housed in large wooden frames. Elora pointed at a painting to show Tisa and took her a little far. While they were looking at the painting, Lucas and his officials were walking around. Elisa was accompanied by Logan as they walked. "That's you." He stopped in front of a painting. When Elisa glanced at it, she noticed that it was a painting of a wolf with white fur and blue eyes. She looked down at the title, which was written below the painting with blue ink. "Beautiful Omega." She stared at the wolf carefully, but suddenly something hit her mind. She turned to look at Logan. "How do you say that it looks like my wolf?" she asked him. "Because not every Omega did not have white wolves and blue eyes. There were other Omega's paintings too." Logan gave her a warm grin but did not respond to her question. She wondered whether or not she had ever shifted in front of him. Perhaps he had seen her when they were both still young. However, she was unable to recall ever running with him. They walked ahead and saw Elora standing in front of a painting. Since everyone was hunting for their kind in the paintings, Elisa refrained from disturbing her in any way. She walked past her. However, Logan came to a stop and gazed at the painting. A woman with dark hair and a pair of green eyes. She was looking at the moon as the moonlight fell over her. Logan looked at the title and muttered, "Lunar Witch." The unexpected voice jolted Elora out of her complacency. When she turned her head, she noticed that Logan had stepped next to her and was standing beside her. His gaze was glued on the painting in front of him. Elora looked at his profile from the side. He was a very attractive young man. It was not like she could compare his appearance to Lucas. Because they were both appealing to the eye. When he turned his head and looked into her eyes glowed green. Almost instantly, he turned his gaze away from her. Elora laughed derisively at his response. She refocused her attention on the painting. "What brings you to stare at this painting like that? You are not a lunar witch. Hybrid's painting is there." He made the statement as he regarded a painting that was located a few blocks away from where they were standing. "How can I forget my first identity?" she mumbled in a lower tone. Logan was an alpha. He was able to pick up on her every word. "First identity?" Elora did not reply to him and instead continued to mend her gaze on the woman portrayed in the painting. In addition to that, Logan also turned his attention to the painting. He remembered a lunar witch he was familiar with. "Have you ever come across one in person?" Elora's question came out of the blue. "What? Have you ever met a lunar witch?" "Of course. I know a very powerful witch. Her power and ability are unimaginable. Lunar witches got their power directly from the moonlight. That is why they are called lunar witches." "Who is she?" "Georgiana James." Elora's brows immediately furrowed at hearing the name. Her eyes shone with anguish and despair. "She is my PAX member. Not only that, she is my father's very close friend. On every important occasion, she comes here to greet me." "Nice. So she has met you already?" "What do you mean?" he inquired while glancing at her. Elora let out a sigh and shook her head in response. Nothing. She started walking toward the painting that Logan was referring to. Unintentionally, Logan followed after her. She stopped in front of a painting of a grey wolf with green eyes. She gulped when she saw the wolf. Her eyes gleamed with the reflection of tears. Supreme Hybrid, Logan said it as he glanced at the title. Not bad. No doubt you have an amazing rank. But you can't deny that you are different from us. Do you despise it? Her sudden question stunned him, but he replied while scrutinizing the painting. No. But... He paused without finishing the sentence. She had an understanding of what he was going to say. But she was completely blameless in the matter. She was not born like that. Logan glanced at her but was taken aback when he noticed tears running down her cheeks. Why are you crying? She shook her head and wiped her tears. She turned to look around and saw Lucas staring at her. Even though he already had a scowl on his face, when he noticed Elora's tears, his expression worsened. He approached her and inquired, "Why are you crying?" His eyes shifted to Logan. He glared at him and asked, "What did you say to her?" At that time, they attract others' attention. Alisa was looking around the hall all alone. She was examining all the paintings with titles she had passed. Suddenly, her eyes fell on Logan and Lucas. They did not look in a good mood. Lucas looked angry. She rushed to them and stood next to Logan. What happened? She asked Logan, but when her eyes fell on Elora, she was astounded. Elora was crying while staring at Lucas without saying anything. I didn't say anything. Logan replied to Lucas. He was also glaring at Lucas since Lucas was the first one to approach him furiously. He did not say anything. Don't fight. Elora whispered to Lucas and lowered her head. Lucas did not shift his eyes from Logan. He stepped towards him, which made Elisa afraid that he would start the fight. But Lucas stood in front of Logan and warned him, "Keep your distance from her. Just focus on the woman who you have chosen as your Luna." Elisa was stunned by his remarks. Why did he bring her into their conversation? Why did he bother to threaten Logan in the first place? When did Logan show interest in Elora or get close to her? In fact, Logan talked about Elora's rank, and she stopped him from saying anything about it. Then why? She turned to Logan and asked, "What did you do?" He looked at her and was silent for a few seconds. He sighed and replied, "I didn't say anything. We were just looking at her rank." She got emotional about it. "Believe me, I can't look at anyone when you are in front of me." Elisa averted her gaze from him. She looked at Lucas and said, "You are misunderstanding him. He had done nothing. If you still have problems, then don't leave the woman you have chosen as your Luna alone, and only focus on her." Elisa gave him his own answer back on his face and grabbed Logan's hand. Logan gazed at her hand. She pulled him along with her. He cast a brief look over at Elora, who was still staring at Lucas, and then his gaze shifted to Lucas, who was giving Elisa a furious look. Then he turned his attention back to Elisa and walked with her. Lucas turned around to look at Elora. She immediately lowered her head. His eyes fell on the painting. "Did I make you a hybrid to see the tears in your eyes?" He questioned her as he focused his attention on the painting. She gave a little shake of the head and glanced at the painting once again. It brought back memories of the very first time I shifted. I was trembling with fear that time. I could not believe that I had turned into a wolf. She exclaimed. When she thought about her past experiences, her lips quivered. Meanwhile, Logan stopped Elisa from walking any further. Do you really think I did anything? Elisa glared angrily in his direction. You must have mentioned something about her rank, right? If that's not the case, then why does a confident lady like her shedding tears? I just want to tell you that I only love you. No matter who will try to stand in our way. I will always love you. Elisa was surprised by his sudden confession. What are you saying? I told you to remember that. It's my promise to you. Elisa could not understand what had happened to him so suddenly. Listen, I don't give a damn what you. Elisa paused when her eyes fell behind Logan. She could see Elora and Lucas a little far from them. She felt her heart shudder while looking at them. Elora was trying to say something while lowering her head, but Lucas interrupted her by pulling her into his embrace and hugging her. Logan observed the distressed expression on her face and asked, "Where are you looking?" He turned to see what she was looking at. He witnessed Lucas giving Elora a hug. While she was crying, he was trying to calm her down by patting her head. Logan made his way back around to face Elisa while gritting his teeth and telling her, "Stop looking at them." Elisa then averted her gaze and proceeded to the opposite side, leaving him there. She was at a loss to understand why she continued to experience pain whenever she saw him. Her heart was ripped in two by the sight of him holding another woman. She did want to see any of these. This was what I wanted. I always wanted him to be happy with someone else who deserves him. So I should not feel upset when he finds someone better than me. He cares for her. He must have feelings for her. 2 years is a really long time. If he cared so much for me when I was his girlfriend, then he may care double for Elora since she is going to be his wife. She thought while walking. She had been thinking deeply when she unexpectedly collided with another person. "Oh, I'm so sorry," she said and looked at the person. It was Tisa. Elisa's upset face turned furious. Tisa looked away from her and was about to pass her. But Elisa grabbed her hand and pulled her to a corner so that others could not feel disturbed. "Why are you ignoring me?" Even though Elisa had made the decision not to talk to her, she was unable to refrain from doing so when she saw her standing in front of her. Tisa was silent. She was looking at the floor. "You went abroad and changed yourself. You did not contact me. In fact, you changed your preference, or, I would say, you changed your best friend." Tisa looked at her when she heard her. She shook her head and replied, "You are the one who has changed first." "Me? How? Am I the one who is ignoring you? Am I the one who is behaving like you are no one to me? How could you leave Lucas for Logan?" Tisa asked. The hold that Elisa had on Tisa's wrist began to loosen. She gave her a frowning look. "What is it with you?" "Elisa, he is my alpha." Elisa scoffed when she heard her best friend. She could not believe that just because of her pack's head alpha, her best friend, was reacting like that to her. "My relationship with him should not matter to you. You are my friend. But you are acting as though you are not familiar with me at all." "Why? Just because I broke up my relationship with him." "You didn't break up. You betrayed him. You accepted Logan's marriage proposal when you were already committed to him. He told you this. Is there a lie?" "No. But whether I betray him or not, that's our personal matter. Are you reacting to me based on that fact? You decided to break our friendship and extend your hand toward your soon-to-be Luna of your new pack. Very well done, Tisa. I didn't expect that from you. Neither did I expect that from you. It was hard for me to believe that you did it. But when Lucas told me what you had told him, you broke my heart. Because my best friend Elisa cannot say those things. She was not a greedy woman. Then how could she have changed in the little amount of time that I was away? Elisa stared at Tisa. She wanted to tell her that if she believed what Lucas said to her, then she was never her true friend. She should have felt that there was something that stopped Elisa. She should have shown some belief in her. You are right. I have evolved through time. I changed myself totally from the day I realized that I was going to become this Pax Luna. Since you don't like to be my friend anymore, you don't have to. I will never force you. I want to thank you for being there for me as my support system for all these years. Tisa, I am grateful to you for everything. I will always remember you. After she finished saying that, Elisa made an attempt to leave, but Tisa's voice prevented her. Elisa, she turned to look at her and noticed that Tisa's eyes were glittering. Elisa looked away from her and said, "You chose the right thing. You are the beta's wife. I heard you have great power in your pack. Additionally, I saw how you were going to attend the meeting, which clearly declared your capabilities. I hope that you will shine even brighter in your future." Elisa turned and started to stroll in the art gallery alone. She noticed many parents came with their children. She saw many couples come to visit and chat with each other. She witnessed many friends come together to enjoy their holiday. Elisa felt all alone in her life. She did not have any relationships in her life right then. She did not have a good relationship with her parents. She did not have the person whom she used to call her best friend. She was unable to be with the person she loved. All alone. She mumbled. She wanted to go back home. All of a sudden, her gaze shifted to an old woman. Elisa strode towards her and stopped next to her. "Grandma, how are you?" The old woman turned to her. She looked at her with a grin in her emerald eyes. Elisa was shocked to see her face so clearly. Her wrinkles started to fade away, her white hair turned shiny, and a glow seemed to appear on her face. It seemed as though she was not growing older but rather getting younger. "I am fine. What about you?" the old woman asked her. "I am okay, Grandma. It's been a while. Where are you nowadays? After the day that we had our last meeting, I never saw you at the bus stop again." It was the old woman she used to meet on the bus. The last time she met her was when Lucas was with her. That was the last time they crossed paths. After that day, she never saw her again. The old woman smiled at her warmly before turning her attention to the painting that was in front of her. "That was a fortunate day for me. I was given an opportunity that I could not have ever foreseen obtaining in my entire life." Elisa was very confused by what she was saying. She shifted her attention to the painting that the old woman was studying. The moment her eyes caught the painting, she was startled. It was a painting of a giant black wolf. What frightened others were his eyes. A pair of glowing dark orange eyes. Elisa slowly looked at the title that was written below the painting with golden ink. She felt a shiver run through her entire body when she read it in a lower tone. "Almighty True Blood Alpha." As her wolf howled from within, Elisa's entire body began to tremble. She took a step back, but she was unable to pull her gaze away from the painting. She had no idea why her wolf was howling or why she was feeling uneasy. "Don't worry. She will be okay in some time." She heard the old woman. She turned to her and asked, "I am." She was at a loss for words. "I can understand. Your wolf is feeling submissive to the thought of the wolf," the old woman explained. She knew and felt many things. She was the fire witch, Orelia. She progressed into a more powerful witch after becoming a member of the coven. Elisa calmed her wolf and gazed at Orelia. Grandma, I have never heard of this rank. Orelia looked at the painting while asking, why? Didn't your parents tell you about ranks? No. Not much. True blood is the rarest rank. Once every 100 years, a wolf with true blood rank is born. Thousands of years ago, only alpha men and women mates could give birth to true blood. However, true blood is a cold-blooded wolf. The two alpha genes were something they would have to handle together inside them. It made them powerful and aggressive at the same time. Even lichens were afraid of them. Elisa listened to Orelia with great attention. She felt interested. It was something new she was learning. She was completely unaware of the true blood alphas. Then why does it become so rare? She asked. Moon Goddess decided to reserve these wolves since they are her most precious creatures. She bestowed upon these wolves the ability to wield strength and an aura that caused others to bow down to them. Oh, so every wolf is scared of them. Not only wolves, but every moon creature recognizes them by their scent. Their scent has the power to subdue anyone in front of them. They came as a blessing from the Moon Goddess. The color of their eyes used to be red like any other alphas, but with their power and abilities, it changed colors and turned orange. It differentiates them from ordinary alphas. Even though being an alpha werewolf is already considered to be the most powerful rank in the werewolf world, true blood alphas are considered to be the most powerful of all moon creatures. Because of the blood in their veins, they have the ability to change any kind. We witches never submit to any alpha because we are here to help the werewolves, yet in front of a true blood alpha, we are required to submit without having any say in the matter. This is the significance the Moon Goddess gave them. Your abilities are nothing in comparison to his, regardless of how highly ranked you are. Alisa felt that she was listening to the history of her ancestors' times. Because a powerful wolf like this one could not possibly exist at this time. In this modern world, who could handle power like this? Even if this wolf were born, he might be leading a very traditional life. Suddenly, she was curious about something. Grandma, is there any true blood alpha in this world right now? Orelia was silent for a few seconds. Elisa thought she would not answer any more questions. So she turned to the painting and tried to observe the wolf. Who knows? Maybe yes. Orelia mumbled and turned to Elisa. Elisa gradually turned her attention to her. She noticed something odd in her stare. How? How is it possible that nobody is aware of it? Perhaps he is keeping his identity a secret in order to prevent himself from destroying everything he dislikes. But no matter what, every moon creature will remain loyal to him because it is fated to be so. He is our alpha. He doesn't need a pack to rule. He is ruling over us, giving us his shadow, and providing us power to live long. For a moment, Elisa felt scared by Orelia's words. It was like she knew the true blood alpha, and he was helping her. She gulped and nodded at her. I got it. She glanced at others and realized that she was far from them. She came to a different block. Besides her, there were so many paintings of witches on the walls around her. And where she was standing was the last painting. She assumed that this must be the reason why it was not shown in the first block. Because little children might be frightened? Or is it due to the fact that its existence is a distinct possibility? Elisa's attention shifted back to Orelia. She noticed she was looking somewhere else. Elisa followed her gaze and discovered that Lucas was looking at Orelia. She was surprised. Suddenly, she remembered the day when she met Orelia last. That day, Lucas did not get on the bus, and she saw Orelia looking at Lucas outside the bus. Do you know him? She asked Orelia. Orelia turned her head toward Elisa and nodded at her. Who doesn't know Alpha Lucas? Her question astounded Elisa. Then she thought that now everyone knew that Lucas was the head alpha of the Black Moon Pack. Yet, he is a very powerful alpha. He is Alpha Neil's son. So he came here to visit his brother's pack just now. Elisa said. He did not come here to visit his family. He has his own reasons to come here. Grandma, do you know something? I know you can feel and see many things. You even told me about my wolf before. Can you please enlighten me on something I don't know? You look desperate, dear. Elisa lowered her head. She was hopeless. Because she was unable to maintain any of the relationships she ever had in her life. She cast a quick glance in the direction of Lucas, who could not be found anywhere in the hall. Orelia gave her a reassuring smile despite her apparent distress. She comforted her by putting her hand on her shoulder and saying, "Dear, you still have a ways to go. You have to get back to being yourself." Elisa looked into her green eyes. She could feel sadness. Was she upset with her? Why? What did she witness that caused her to feel such sorrow? Because of some wrong decisions, you lost a great opportunity to be happy in your life. Elisa was not surprised by her words because she could perceive a lot of things. Therefore, she listened to her with her head down. I am sorry, my child. But there is something I want to alert you to. Elisa looked at her and asked, What, Grandma? Orelia removed her hand from her shoulder and replied, A disaster has arrived in your life and has already wrapped you up inside. Now you have no way but to embrace it. Elisa's mind went in a variety of different directions as she watched the constantly shifting scenery in front of her. She was muddled by what Orelia had said to her. What type of warning were others giving her? She recalled the night when which Georgiana told her the same thing. She told her about some disaster. What could it be? Her mind went to Lucas. The way he came out as the powerful alpha everyone tried to reach made her think that something was related to him. What are you thinking? Elisa heard Logan's voice beside her. They were returning to the pack house from the art gallery. They departed from there 1 hour ago. After talking with Orelia, Elisa was forfeited in reflections. She left the art gallery with a messy mind. Nothing. She replied. What were you talking about with that old woman? He asked. Additionally, he had witnessed her conversing with the witch. Elisa turned to him. She claimed that a disaster had already taken place in my life. I was thinking about it. Do you have any idea what she was talking about? Logan thought she was referring to him as the disaster. He looked at her hands and grabbed one of them. Elisa did not try to stop him and instead remained calm as she observed what he was attempting to do. Elisa. I want to say sorry to you. If I had not turned you down by the rejection, maybe things would not be as messed up in our lives as they are now. Elisa turned her attention away from him. He proceeded to stroke the back of her hand with his thumbs. I am at a loss for words to express my regret to you. I can't give you back your fruitful life, even if I want to. But I would like to make a commitment. She only listened to him without responding to him, nor did she remove her hand from his. I will always try to make you happy. I will treat your parents the same way that I treat mine. No matter how many battles I end up victorious in, you three will always hold a special place in my heart. Elisa felt a warmth in her heart from his words. It was not a lie to say that he really took care of her and her parents for the last 2 years. He never let her parents feel the absence of a son in their lives. Even though it was his fault for forcing her to stay in his life against her will, he never stopped making an effort to protect her in every way he could. Was it always his fault? Was it not her fault for not rejecting him in front of others? Was it not her parents' fault to forcibly tie her to him? I know you used to love Lucas. But it is clear that he is seeing another woman at this time. Perhaps it was written in the stars for him to arrive here with another woman in order to prove to us that we were destined to be together. The woman is important to him, and he is important to her. So I think it's time for us to think about our marriage. Our wedding is so close to us. In this 1 month, let's give us time to understand each other and forget everything about our past. You were with him only for a few months, but you were with me from childhood. We have spent a lot of time together. Over the course of the past 2 years, I have never once compelled you to welcome me within your heart. But since now the man you loved has already his woman, you should move on. Elisa froze in her seat without moving. Every word Logan had told her was true. She felt a pair of warm lips kiss the back of her hand and then rested it back on her lap. Give it some thought. After saying this, he switched his attention to the window. Elisa gradually turned to him, and his side profile caught her eye. He looked serious, but he also looked lost. For the first time, she felt that Logan was looking in the same state as her. She tried to guess why Logan suddenly started to say those things to her. What was bothering him so suddenly? Even a few days before, he had the confidence in himself to tide her with him. But why did he suddenly want her approval? Was he feeling insecure after seeing Lucas? Or was there something else? Elisa thought about herself, too. The disaster people are alerting me, she spoke out, but he interrupted her while turning his head toward her. Let's overcome the disaster together. Elisa was not the type of woman who could change her mind or herself in the space of a few seconds or for the sake of convenience. She believed that he would never be able to fill the void in her heart. And what he said about time was a misconception. What she had felt with Lucas in a few months was something she had never felt with Logan in many years. So, thinking that it will take a long time to be in love is wrong. Sometimes, only a few moments are enough to make you fall in love with a person. And sometimes, even if you spend your entire life with a person, there is no guarantee that you will ever develop romantic feelings for him. Elisa sighed and looked at the front through the windshield. Lucas's car was in front of theirs. She could see him from the back of his car. Elora's head was resting on his shoulder. They looked like they were in a peaceful environment. No one was there to disturb them. Elisa assumed they were very close to each other. Lucas might spend a lot of time with her besides ruling his giant pack. She remembered that at the table, Elora mentioned his hugging her in the woods. Elisa looked away from them and thought that it was time to behave like a mature woman. The past was the past. She could not let it come into her future. In teenage life, people can make mistakes and break up their relationships. But that doesn't mean they will stick with it forever. Life cannot stop for anyone. Her eyes then shifted to Logan, who appeared disturbed for some unknown reason. He looked at the driver and instructed him, simply cross the car and proceed. We have no interest in being privy to the details of someone else's love life. His voice was cold, and the driver immediately passed Lucas's car to save his life from his alpha's anger. Elisa observed Logan's weird behavior while saying, I will think about it. The next morning, Elisa woke up early and got ready for school. Last night, she returned home directly. The cars did not stop in front of any restaurants since everyone had decided to return first and then have a late dinner. But she did not go back to the pack house to have dinner with others. When she reached her home, she caught a glimpse of her parents' upset mood. Despite the fact that she, too, was distressed by it, she chose not to discuss it with them. Elisa wore blue a crop top and black jeans for her outfit today. She put on her sneakers and dashed out of the room as quickly as she could. She glanced at the table when she went downstairs. Her parents were quietly consuming their breakfast at the time. When they saw her, her mother immediately summoned her and said, "Elisa, come have breakfast with us." "No, Mom. Thanks." After replying, she headed to the door. "Stop being so stubborn. It has been quite some time since you last ate a meal with us. Why are you doing this?" Her father stood up and turned around to ask her. She remembered how adorable the bond she had with her father was. But the passage of time altered everything. "I am getting late, Dad," she said and opened the door. "You are still adamant about the man who brought your father's reputation into disrepute in front of other people?" he asked with a defeated tone. Elisa did not make any attempt to turn around. After clearing her throat, she said, "You gave me options to choose from. I did. Now I have nothing to do with that man. It is entirely up to you to decide how you will deal with him and how you will respond to the behavior he displays toward you. I request you not to conclude that any of my acts are in any way connected to him." Saying that, Elisa left the house. After she had arrived at her school, she headed straight to the first lesson that was on her schedule. When it was break time, she and her new friends, Sierra and Diva, came across her. The three of them headed to the cafeteria together. Elisa could see through the windows that there was a crowd of people congregating near the entrance. "What's the deal with all these people?" she inquired with her friends. "Your best friend is coming to visit her old school today." "What, you didn't know that?" Sierra asked. Elisa was aware that they would stop by for a visit at some point, but she had no idea that it would be today. So everyone is gathered there for her. She questioned herself and was surprised that people really cared so much about Tisa. No, not because of her. Lucas has returned to the pack, too. So they want to see him once again, especially girls. Diva replied with a lower tone. She thought it would be awkward to talk about Lucas in front of Elisa. Elisa rolled her eyes as she recalled the days when Lucas was known throughout their school as the school's most famous playboy. Suddenly, her phone began to ring. She saw that it was Logan. "Hello. Come outside. I am on the way to your school," Logan said and cut the call. Elisa stared at her phone while thinking about what could be the reason for his sudden visit. She realized that he was playing the role of alpha in order to go around the pack and check on them just like yesterday. "So I have to be with them again," she thought and felt irritated. "Logan is outside. I am going to him," she said to her friends. They nodded their heads. Sierra said that they also wanted to go outside. So Elisa walked with them towards the entrance area. She noticed that the crowd was beginning to cheer. She thought that Lucas had already arrived at the school, which was the reason why the students, particularly the girls, were screaming. Students in the center of the gathering started to split up as she moved closer to the crowd in order to make space for her to get closer to the visitors. "I can't wait to see her reaction. Her ex-boyfriend is here," a girl said to others, which reached Elisa's ears. She guessed that no one had known about Lucas's identity as the head alpha yet. She believed that Lucas's visit to school would not create problems for her daily life. "Look at him. How much more attractive he has gotten. He turned into a manly and handsome figure. Look at his clothes, he came here in formal clothes. I really can't believe what I'm seeing. I am witnessing the appearance of a Greek god. But why are there so many guards accompanying him?" Elisa kept listening to the girls while heading outside. Who is the beautiful young woman? What gives her the right to grab Lucas's arm in that manner? Is she dating him? Oh, no way. I have no doubt that she is one of his flings. Have you forgotten his mindset? Girls can only be with him for a night. Elisa was astounded by the other girls' gossip. Due to the manner in which they had been discussing Elora, she knew that they would be shocked when she learned of her being the soon-to-be Luna of the Black Moon Pack. She came out of the crowd and took in the sights of the visitors. Tisa and Elora were talking about something. Lucas and his officials were standing beside them. She noticed that Gamma Colin had also come today. Because yesterday he did not join them to visit the art gallery. He was kind of a cold man compared to other officials. Because she knew the other three but was unfamiliar with him. Logan's car stopped beside the other cars. Wade and Logan came out of the car. Students bowed to Logan while standing. Alpha the boys greeted him while standing where they were. Logan showed his appreciation for them by nodding his head and extending his hand to Elisa. Elisa reached out and grasped his hand before standing next to him since she was the future Luna. She would have to show formality in front of others. Today I come here to introduce someone special to you all. Logan said to others. Students paid careful attention to him as he spoke. Girls were unable to pull their eyes away from Lucas, while boys felt a little uneasy from Lucas and his official's sense. They were feeling a little submissive toward Lucas, which really shocked them. Meet the head alpha of the Black Moon Pack, Alpha Lucas. Though he was one of the students of this school like you before, today he came here to visit like an alpha. So treat him and don't disappoint any of his people. Elisa fixed her gaze on Logan. The manner in which he presented Lucas, which was filled with so much respect, is enough to win anyone's heart. She cast a quick glance in Lucas's direction and assumed that he would converse in a formal manner with the other people given that he had been doing so for the last 2 days. But her assumption turned out to be wrong when he spoke out. Hello, guys. Missed me? The girls screamed their throats out. Yes. Lucas smirked and nodded his head. Considering how much you've all missed me while I was gone, what do you think about me buying your university? Everyone was shocked that Lucas was the head alpha of the dreadful Black Moon Pack. They were powerless to stop the fear that was rising up within them. They used to obey him as their head alpha Neil's son, but now he turned out to be a powerful man whom everyone had always heard about. No one spoke out in answer to Lucas when he asked about buying the university. Behind his sunglasses, Logan rolled his eyes and remarked, "Our principal is waiting for you, Alpha Lucas. Come in this direction." As if Lucas had never been to the school before, he made a kindly motion with his hand inside the building. "You forgot to introduce my soon-to-be Luna, Alpha Logan. Is there any reason behind it?" Lucas asked while turning his head toward him. The girls in the crowd gasped when they heard Lucas. Soon-to-be Luna. Is he committed? There were whispers heard from within the gathering. Logan cast a quick peek in Elora's direction as she stood there ignorantly staring at the crowd. Alisa cleared her throat and said, "She is Elora James, the soon-to-be Luna of the Black Moon Pack. They are Black Moon's officials. Gamma Colin, Theta Vernon, Delta Owen, and Beta Max. She is Tisa, Beta Max's mate." The introduction was simple and clear. In one way, Elisa introduced everyone to the school in a polite manner. Lucas did not bother to wait and started to proceed inside. Others moved from his side to let him enter. They bowed their heads. They bent their heads in submission. It was uncertain whether they were bowing to Logan as he was their alpha or to Lucas since his scent was dominant. When they arrived at the principal's office, they noticed that all of the professors were waiting outside to shake their hands and give them a warm welcome. They were stunned when they saw Lucas. Logan did not wait to talk to them, he directly entered the principal's office, and others followed him behind. The principal stood up immediately. He bowed to Logan and greeted him. Alpha. His gaze landed on Lucas. His eyes widened as he saw the school's troublemaker in his office. "You are back, Alpha Lucas." A stern voice came from Gamma Colin as he warned the principal. The principal was scared by the demeanor. But he turned to Logan to learn about the matter. "He is the head Alpha of the Black Moon Pack." Logan introduced others too and walked to the couch to take a seat. The principal's knees were shaken up when he heard Logan. "Alpha, please forgive me. I didn't know about that," he said to Lucas while trembling. Lucas gave him a nod and gestured for him to go and sit down on his chair. The principal did the same thing Lucas wanted. There was a knock on the door. "May we please come in, sir?" The voices of the professors could be heard coming from outside the door. The principal glanced at Logan, who nodded his head. The principal permitted them to enter the office. All the professors came to meet the head Alpha of the Black Moon Pack. "Alpha Lucas, they wanted to meet you. We heard a lot about you but never got a chance to talk to you like that, although you were one of our students like others," the principal said. There was a look of shock on the professors' faces. When Lucas looked at them, they immediately lowered their heads. "I want you to give that professor a promotion." He pointed to a professor and said it to the principal. That professor's eyes widened. The other professors' expressions conveyed both anger and enviousness as they looked at him. "May I ask you why, Alpha?" the principal asked. "No," Lucas replied. Elora could not help but laugh. Everyone looked at her with an astonishing face. Logan gave her a hostile look. "Don't you know how to respect others? You are in the principal's office." Elora scoffed at him. "Don't you know who I am? There is no one over my Alpha, so I don't need to show respect to anyone else. You and him are just made for each other." "Yeah, you are exactly correct, Alpha Logan." Alisa observed them while they were taunting each other in a whispered conversation. When did they start to mock each other? She thought and turned her gaze away from them. Her focus gradually shifted to Lucas. "Because once I promised him a promotion. That time I was busy with my work, but now that I am back, he deserves a promotion." After that, the professor bowed deeply and expressed his gratitude. As Elisa thought back to the moment when Lucas told that man about his promotion, she made a frowning face. That day, Lucas was with her in a class when he grabbed her hand and took her out of the class. In the middle of the way, he told that professor that he deserved a promotion because he let them go out of the class together. He still remembered that. Why? She thought as her eyes focused on Lucas's face. She took a careful look at his features from the side. He appeared to have grown up significantly in the past 2 years. His appearance was brightened by a radiance that shone from within. He was not the old Lucas who was a young boy with a carefree attitude. He had grown into a powerful man who could control any circumstance to work in his favor by virtue of his power. Elisa gasped when Lucas caught her gaze. She quickly shifted her glance away from him and attempted to look elsewhere. She noticed Tisa was staring at her. Elisa tried to avoid the sight of her best friend by turning her back on her and beginning to use her phone. Following their time in the principal's office, they made their way to the school's cafeteria. "This is my favorite place, it's where I have so many wonderful memories," Tisa said to Elora while glancing at Elisa. "I see. It's quite nice." Elora remarked this before walking over to the counter to place an order for her. Lucas was with her. Elisa came to a stop in the middle of her walk and turned to gaze at Logan. "I can't continue from here." "Why?" "I have classes." "You are free to skip." No one can talk over Luna. You are aware of that. No way. I am not interested in staying here either. Logan did not force her. He informed Lucas that he would be departing and that Elisa would be attending her lessons. Lucas did not respond to them, as if he did not care. Elisa left the cafeteria and proceeded to the class she had on her schedule right now. When all of her classes were over, she got a message from Logan. She checked on it and realized that Lucas had left with others. But then she read another message. Tonight school's boys are throwing a welcoming party for Lucas. You are coming with me. I will come to pick you up in the evening. Join our Facebook and WhatsApp group for more updates, link is given in description. Rest audiobook will be continued in next episode.